Have you ever wondered how to fast track your success regardless of your circumstances? On this episode of the PA System, I'm talking with Proctor Gallagher consultant Troy Aberle, one of the world's premier acceleration coaches, about how he fast-tracked his own career to the tune of over $300 million and now coaches others to reach their full potential. So it is with great pleasure, Troy, that I welcome you to the show.
Yeah, you betcha. How you doing, Pamela? It's great to be here.
So excited to have you here.
No, for sure. I'm excited myself, and thank you for the opportunity.
Such a joy. Okay, so let's start off talking a little bit about how you're kind of navigating this craziness that's going on in the world. I am super curious. This is a question I've been wanting to ask you. What is one thing that you do every day that just keeps you aligned with your purpose?
Great question. For me, is really being calibrated and staying calibrated with knowing exactly what I want to achieve in the long term, and then making sure that every single day that I'm being aware of the things that are working for me or taking away from me being able to achieve those goals. And so I'd say that I have my goal card. It's something that Bob Proctor has taught me, and just a lot of people. And when you envision that and you have that written out and you're speaking about it and you're talking about it and you go through that. I have an alarm set for every 3 hours to remind me just really quickly to check in with three things. What am I focused on? What is my language externally and internally? And what's my physiology? Maybe I got to get up and I got to have some better physiology and some action. Motion affects emotion, as Tony Robbins would say.
Absolutely.
And what am I saying to myself and what am I saying to the people around me?
Right.
But the big part is what am I really focused on? Because, I'm so crystal clear on what my goals are and what I really want that I am, constantly being reminded as to making sure that I am staying on track. And, just a funny little extra piece is I'm also constantly writing out extra things to do, but I have a not to do list as well. And so I'm, constantly reminding myself throughout the day of the things that just simply aren't serving me.
Love that. And so on your goal card, just so people kind of understand, you have one goal on this card. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I carry 3 goal cards. One is for my personal, one is for my business, and then one is also for my family. And it's just, it allows me to think that way. Some people tie in whatever they want into one. But, for instance, I am so happy and grateful that it is June 15th, 2022, and I have now served exactly 1,000 clients that I'm teaching the Thinking to Results program to. So
Okay.
I totally own that, and I envision it, I feel it. I've given out the certificates. I've high-fived, 1,000 people saying, hey, good job, and I'm proud that I've been able to serve them at the highest level. And I totally own that. I don't use language like I hope that I can work with 1,000 people or someday. There's no someday in your calendar. It's today. Today's the day. Absolutely. And so you just get going. So that's what I look forward to. And that's the type of thing. So if you really want to figure out your goal card, write out exactly the date and write out exactly what has happened already as if it's already happened. And every single day envision what it smells like, what it tastes like, what does it feel like, look like, what is that, everything, all your senses, what does it sound like, all those things, to be in the moment when you get to look back and know that you've achieved what you said you were going to. And for some people, that's so just powerful. Simply dipping their feet into the water in a lake in Colorado because they wanted to go to a cabin that cost $20,000 a night. I don't know. So it's and for some people it's going to be, they wanted to buy that car, or they wanted to buy that home, or maybe they wanted to be able to build a school in a place for children to be able to grow and learn. That's the kind of feelings you really want to resonate with.
I love that. And it sounds very empowering.
It's everything, because when you become that way, it really digs deep into what I deal with specifically as frequency. And with frequency, when you start to align your thoughts and that even as weird as it sounds, the foods you eat, the things that you listen to, the people you're surrounded with, the type of water that you're drinking, the exercise, or all of the things that are happening in your life,
Right.
all have frequency. And when you tune into the frequency that aligns with the goal that you want, you're going to attract more of other things that are on that frequency, and you'll start to naturally tune out the things that aren't on that frequency.
Mm.
And that's when you all of a sudden realize a lot of the things that you might not have been happy with, you've naturally figured out exactly how to work through that. And you're living life on a completely different wavelength than you ever even imagined possible. Truthfully, you actually did imagine it. It's just that you didn't actually envision it the way that you could have. And all of a sudden, all these things start to happen, and you start to get these jitters because you're like, it feels like deja vu. But the truth is because you've already envisioned it so much that you're actually there. Then with that
That's
frequency,
amazing.
with being able to achieve that, that's when you get to be more inspirational for your family, more inspirational for the people that you work with, or your clients in your business, or your staff. And that's when it feels true fulfillment.
Mm. Yeah. And, I think that this is so important because I feel like a lot of people right now, they really want to hear from leaders that are going through the same things they are, experiencing the same kind of issues in terms of, circumstances or situations around them, and yet are still finding solutions. And these are really powerful solutions. I think, when we start to think in terms of the long term and being able to see that in advance and really act as if it's already happening, it totally changes not just our perception, but the way that we act and perform in everyday life. So talk to us just a little bit about how you see that play out in some of your clients' lives.
Well, I think there's a huge opportunity now for everybody to recalibrate. I mean, for the
Mm.
most part, 99% of people all got to be in lockdown together. There was a few percent of people that their lives didn't change because, maybe they were, a certain career, or, something, happening in their life that kept them in the exact same position that they were in before the pandemic. But when you really look at it, right now, you can actually, there's so many opportunities to stop doing the things that you weren't happy about doing. Maybe that's
Mm.
a job, maybe it's a relationship you're in, maybe it's something to do with your health and wellness, or your spiritual life. There's so many different things that you could look at. But when you really look at is today, you could say up till today, as I put it, was chapter one. So maybe
Mm.
0 to, if you're 43 years old, maybe you say to yourself, you know what, that was chapter one. The pandemic came, I lost my job, or things, happened. And rather than looking at it happening to you, maybe it happened for you. And maybe
Right.
it's because you were already ready for that change. So what if you took that next piece of paper and you wrote down 43 to, 100 years old,
Yeah.
and now you're able to say, you know what, that's going to be chapter two. Here's the things that I know in my heart that I need to keep doing, or I need to start doing to get my goal. But
Mm.
here's all the stuff that I can stop doing. And maybe that's actions. Maybe that's mental things that were happening,
Yeah.
because there's the story you keep telling yourself. We can change that story, we can change our state, and we can really change then the whole outcome that's going to happen. And I think that that's where the opportunity comes in right now, is there's nothing that you can't do. And right now, I think that for most
Mm.
people, they feel a little bit scared, they're not sure, which is
Yeah.
great. That goal that you could start setting today should feel so scary that it does put you into a state of panic or a little bit of a chill, but
Right.
feel good, because what if you do achieve that?
Right. Right.
Right, you look at the people that are in the space race right now, and I mean, I get it, these people have a lot of going on financially and all that, but look at it in the worst times of the economy, or of just humanity. We're going through a lot of trauma right now, but
Yeah.
yet there's companies flourishing. There's people that are absolutely crushing their dreams because
Yeah.
they've never lost sight of it, and they
Mm.
choose to only focus on or give energy to what they actually can have an impact on. And even
Sure.
if it's hurting your business is hurting in the way that it was working before. In chapter two, let's find the ways that are actually going to work through a whole new set of problems. Let's
Mm,
use the resourcefulness of not only your talents, but your experience and the passion to move forward. Let's use all of that to really
mm,
achieve a whole new set of goals that's going to serve people that can't find that. And for most of the people in your audience, that's exactly what they need to do, is sit down and say, so what am I really good at? What have I
mm.
done? Where do I want to go? And who are the other people on my frequency that I could actually bring together as a team and be able to then give to a whole bunch more people?
Right. Yeah. Well, and so, but you haven't always been in a coaching position. You haven't always been in a position of teaching others. You've been in the position of learning as well. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are now.
For sure. It's so, today, I'm living in my chapter too, but what had happened to me, I grew up, was raised on a farm, great values, loved everything about it. And my parents worked extremely hard. My mom was a nurse, my dad was in oil and gas, plus the farm, and we worked hard.
Yeah.
And I don't know much different other than really hard, good, good, honest work. However, where I was going and following the plan that they were on came from also the strategies that their parents taught and their parents
Mm,
taught. And unfortunately, no offense to anybody, but it was, strictly blue collar work that just you trade time for money. That's it,
right.
which is fine. It works. But the truth was, is I wasn't getting a lot of education on what else was really out there, what was
Mm,
really possible.
right.
And so, but I also did a lot of things that were, I learned that everybody else was doing. So what do? You get involved in alcohol, you get
Mm,
involved in a party life, and it's all the things that just aren't serving you.
right.
And depression, negative self-talk, negative external talk, all of those things that happen. The cool part is I was really good at faking a lot of it, and I did
Mm,
really well. And every job I ever had, it didn't matter what I did. I broke every sales record or business record. I did really,
wow.
really well. And, but I knew that I knew that there had to be something more. I was always
Mm,
curious about self-development and things like that. But what had happened was one of them nights where I was probably having too many beers, I ran into a guy named Tony Robbins. And I bought
mhm.
one of his CDs, actually it was tapes at first, then I had to change it to CDs, but for one of his programs. And when I
Yeah.
really started to realize that there's a whole nother world out there that I haven't been exposed to, so I
Mm,
started to get really invested in really deciding it was time to develop my own self.
mm,
Then at the age of 34, I woke up one day, Pam, and I said, you know what? There's no more alcohol. There's no
wow.
more people that are, really hard on me or that aren't
Mm,
serving me. I also had to look at my health. I had to look at a lot of things, but I decided I wasn't going to be poor anymore.
mm,
And so what I did was I wrote down on a piece of paper, 0 to 34 years old, and I wrote down all the things that I was sick and tired of living with. And on the right side of the piece of paper, I wrote down all the things that were going to create my chapter two.
mm.
And what I did was I tore that piece of paper in half and I burnt it on the back deck in the snow on December 1st. But it was the most liberating feeling in the world because I got to completely say, you know what? I'm not going to be like the way that I can see where everybody else is going. And if I keep following them, I'm going to get that. And really, like Tony also and Jim Rohn
Right.
would say, success leaves clues, and so does failures. So I
Mm,
knew that if I kept doing certain things, I'm going to have this problem. And if I, so why don't we change that? Why don't we follow really successful people? And that's
yeah.
when I started studying, Brendan Burchard, Chet Holmes, Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, all
Right.
these great people, Napoleon Hill, and then I came across, learning how quickly you could transform your life. So before
Mm,
I'd go to, I think my best year ever was like $44,000 a year or something like that. Great money for that lifestyle.
yeah.
But when you can take that same income or the same amount of time and you can 5x it, 10x it, 20, 30, 40x it,
Right.
and make that much more money, it still takes the same amount of time. But
Yeah.
it's just that I changed my goal and I changed the strategies I was using. So today, the cool part is I'm on a very different page than the way I was raised.
Mm,
And I'm also surrounded by a whole pile of different people than I ever dreamt that I'd be
right.
surrounded by. But I get to serve now. I've learned, I've executed, and now I get to inspire people. And, I look back at I worked for John Deere for 11 years for one of the dealers, but and I've won massive sales awards. I've actually, I was able to crest now over $400 million actually, and so being able to really, crush goals that I never would have ever dreamt. But
Mm,
when I changed my mind and with my focus, and I changed what my story was, so
yeah.
that I could have better internal language and external language, and really understanding those things, I could, and the human needs and whatnot, I was able to do that. Then I met Bob Proctor. Sorry, and when I met Bob, I realized that everything in my Chapter 2 program was already being done in a much more scientific way in the Thinking of the Results program.
Mm,
So I had the
okay.
opportunity to partner with Bob. And so as I sit here today, Pam, I am able to utilize a program that literally changed my life and
Mm,
all the other pieces I needed to. It changed my family's life and changed so many clients of my life that I'm committed to a year from now. I wasn't joking. 1,000 people by June 15th of 2022. So I want,
love it.
that's how many people are going to go through that program with me.
That's amazing. Well, and so to that point, I mean, I think it's important for people to understand that, like you were sharing, you weren't always where you are now. And for you to kind of have that turning point, I mean, what kind of, what was the impetus? I mean, what really made you realize, wait a minute, there's something that I could do differently and better here?
Yeah, I would say is realizing that there's more to me than what I'm giving credit for. And I think when you
Mm,
really look at that self-image, and rather than looking at yourself as somebody that has to sacrifice or has to, wait, or you have to do things because it's not fair to someone else, or you need to be on the same playing field.
right.
I'm all about, what, if you really want to be powerful, be inspirational. Learn as
Mm,
much as you can and attach to people that can help build the foundation to build your castle, if you will, and
mm,
take people along the journey so that everybody gets to be a part of that. And I found that so many more people want to see you succeed. And if you find those people, that's when you can build a powerful life and you can help them succeed as well too. I've never met anybody who doesn't need help with something. And when you really listen to each other and you look in the mirror and you can say, and ask yourself, as a friend, Mark Victor Hansen would say, is ask yourself, what
mhm,
is my possibility? Who
mhm.
is it that could support me? Who is it that's not in my
Right.
life that should be maybe in my life, or maybe who's in my life now that needs to be removed? you know,
Right.
I think those are fair questions because you can't be everything to everybody. But I knew
Simple.
looking in the mirror that I needed to be the best version of myself. B, I needed to be the best dad that I humanly could be and the best
Mm,
husband that I could be. And if I left my house with the absolute highest vibration and a
mm,
place of giving and a place of leadership in the home,
mhm.
I can come to anywhere I want to work or anywhere I want to do. Maybe some days it's on the road, and maybe some days it's in the office, or some days it's just in our studio. But no matter where I go with my message, I knew that there was something more. And I'm
Mm,
just proud to finally say, you know what? I am enough. I do
right.
kick butt. And I know that other people are going to kick butt by me giving them the exact same information that I spent literally 20 years trying to figure out. But,
Mm,
I've spent more than six figures on my own personal development. And people say, wow, that's a lot of money. But when I realized and looked in the mirror that I was worth it,
right.
I never had a budget. I just kept
Mm.
digging and digging and digging until I found it. And now I can proudly say I look in the mirror and I feel awesome. So that's why I did it.
I love that. Well, and to that point also, I think there are a lot of people going through transition and change right now that are kind of trying to figure out, how do I get to that next place? Maybe they've lost a job, or a spouse has lost a job, or they're trying to get a business up and going. What do you say to those people who are in that kind of transition that, will help them to just kind of take that first step in the right direction?
Great question. I think that, the number one thing I think that everyone should do is find somebody to be a mentor. It's so hard it's easy to say, go read books and do, which is all important. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But I think you need to really get aware of that your voice isn't the only voice of reason. Your voice also protects itself, or the person that it's talking to. And I think, being able to find a mentor, whether it be a good friend, or maybe you hire a coach, or, maybe you get a part of a mastermind group. But I think where you can literally be honest with yourself and say, hey, my name's Troy. I'm glad to be a part of this group. I'm not sure where to go, but I was wondering if someone could help me out. And ask for help, ask for advice. And I think also even asking yourself, sit down with a journal and start having gratitude, because that attitude is going to really give you a lot of things that you're going to start to develop a mindful trend of things that you really are happy for in your life.
Right.
And as you do that, and as you start sharing that with more and more people, you can start to develop that goal or the things you want. Start writing down the crazy things you want in life. Whether it's, like, again, whether it's that car, or maybe it's that health, or that's it, those awesome abs, or maybe it's, $10 million in the bank, or whatever, that holiday.
Right.
But when you start doing that, you start sharing that with people, it's hard to explain to people who really are in the dumps. But as you keep doing that, and you start to dream, and you start to go back to that little girl, when you were 14, or that little boy when you were 14, and figure out what was that original goal. Maybe it got put off because you became pregnant, or you got married, or someone else's job was bad. You had to take care of a loved one. I don't know. But life turns all these curveballs, and you often drift away from your original purpose or dream.
Yeah.
If you could go back with that mentor and you could look at it, just have fun with it. Don't give it any resistance in saying, well, that's easy for you to say, Troy, because I have to deal with bills. I'm not asking you to turn away from that. I'm just saying, take a half an hour a day and just start really diving in. Phone somebody, phone me, phone Pamela, phone someone, and just start talking about what would it be like?
Right.
I think that's a big thing.
I think that can be challenging sometimes for people. It's almost like we've been conditioned not to do that, right? We've been conditioned to be practical and logical and jump through the hoops that, maybe we've seen our parents jump through, or, just like you were sharing earlier, you had this blueprint that had been laid out for you by your parents, and most of us do, right? That's kind of all we've seen and all we know as kids growing up. But as we get older, to start to step out of that can be kind of challenging. And so to that, how do we do that? How do we start to, maybe it's hard to even imagine, how do we sort of allow ourselves or give ourselves permission to do that?
I would say change your state, right? And so here's how we start off. I'm going to use an example of something that happens to me often. I can go into my own little rut, but I also my clients, and this will happen often. So here's what I would do. If you affect, your senses, whether it be your sight, your hearing, your taste, your touch, and which one am I missing? But there, smell. Thank you. And so what I would do is, so when a lady called me here last week, she was having this problem. So I said to her, and she's depressed. She said, Troy, I've never felt like this. I've been laying in bed, but I'm not tired, but yet I don't want to get out. I'm scared to answer the phone. And I really feel like it's been 3 weeks since I've really been BSing myself that this isn't a problem. Now it's come to fruition. We have a problem. So here's what I said to her. I said, my friend, here's what I would do. I need you to go find a candle or something with a scent that you absolutely love. It doesn't matter if you're a guy, girl, whoever. You got to find something. Go find some cologne or I don't know, but go find something that gives you some inspiration, a good smell. Maybe it's just cedar wood chips. Then go get some food, some broccoli, or something with a high frequency in it, so that you can start, and a big glass of water with lemon. Play some really good music from a soundtrack that really got you fired up. Maybe you went to a Tony Robbins event, or maybe you went to a good Metallica concert. I don't know, but everybody's got that song that makes them totally jam, right?
Yeah.
And I said, so here's the deal. I want you to close the door, tell everybody to go away for an hour. You need this time. And I want you to play this music. And I want you to turn on your screen onto something that you can totally look at that's like with your
Mm.
goals, or maybe it's a boat that you want to buy or car. Find something really crazy that you really want to buy. You're going to own. And I said, you fire up the candle, you start eating food, you playing the music, and you get your butt off the couch and you start dancing. Dance like you're in a concert when you know what I mean, Pam? When you're at those concerts where you're like, you would not do this in front of anybody, but you're at a concert with 25,000 people, so who cares?
Uh,
Do that for a solid hour. Breathe, enjoy, laugh, have fun.
mm,
Look at the images, smell the smell, and just get
right.
really good at it. And then grab a journal, quick piece of paper, and just start while you're dancing. Start writing out, I'm
Mm,
grateful for my toes, right? I'm grateful for
love
my
that.
house. I'm grateful for the sun. Or, maybe I'm grateful because I got bills to pay, because that means I also got to enjoy something that I got to pay for.
Right.
And all those things, just have fun with it. And
Mm,
when you get into that state
yeah.
and you're just pounding on your chest,
Yeah.
that's what's really going to just snap you out of it. And honestly, this girl, I wish I could play the voice note for you, because she said, Troy, it's been 72 hours now, and I'm still on absolute fire because of that. I'm doing this now.
Wow.
I've done
That
this now
literally just gave me
twice.
chills. Uh,
Right. And so
love
when you
that.
do that, and all of a sudden this girl's so pumped up, I'm like feeling kind of tired compared to her voice
Right.
message, right? But the truth is that's how quick you can affect your state. And if you
Mm,
don't believe
yeah.
me, go watch a movie. You can go into a movie theater right now. Go into a movie theater and you can watch the two alleys come in, right? Or the two
Right.
places. They come out at the same time, and you got one that's like a high action film, and you got the other one that's the lovey
Yeah.
dovey
Drama.
movie. Yeah, and that group comes out and everybody's like, "Oh, it's so sweet," and I'm really glad it worked out, right? And then you got the other one where it's like a total action. Everybody's coming out just boom, let's go. But why?
Yeah.
Because we affected all of the senses and it put us on a different frequency that attracts
Mm,
even more of it. So what do? You go outside and you're jumping through the parking lot. The other people are like, "Oh, let's go cuddle," right? And you look at how
right.
all that works. But that's how quick you can literally change your
Which is
state.
really remarkable when you stop and think about it. That we have that much power as humans. We have that much, ability to affect ourselves all by ourselves, right?
Hmm.
I mean, I think a lot of times we kind of get stuck in the thinking that we always need something to affect us from the outside, when we have so much that we can do from the inside.
Look how much money we spend on trying to numb it.
Yes.
Narcotics, alcohol, right?
Yeah,
Gambling. We
absolutely.
tried so many different things to try and stimulate ourselves in a negative way. If you really asked yourself over the last 24 hours, if you're watching this today, write down how many things that you did that were actually more destructive but felt good
Mm,
temporarily. And then
yeah,
write down how many things you did to add the vibration or the frequency, like I just said, with good foods or good waters, all that stuff.
right,
How many times did you do that in the last 24 hours? You might
right.
find this one a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah, because I think that we don't necessarily have a consciousness around that until we've practiced that for a little
Yes.
while. Yeah. And so this is something, and that's one of the things that I love about having these conversations, is that it gives people the opportunity to go, oh, wait a minute, I don't think I've been doing that. It brings an awareness that maybe we didn't have before. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I can start listening to a song in the morning. I can do that for 30 minutes, or dance in the shower if I have to,
Yeah.
whatever, but find a way to start implementing those things in our daily experience.
Totally. Totally. And just get good at doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Have your ritual, right? My
Hmm.
wife, she meditates in the morning and in the afternoon. Why? Because it's two times where she recalibrates. She
Yeah.
tells everybody about it. You just don't bother her with it when she's doing that. My 9-year-old, that's what, he does hers at the same time, right? And Luke, he
Love
does
it.
his when he does his, and everybody's got their schedules of when they have their time, but
Sure.
they do it religiously to recalibrate. And no matter what,
Mm,
it doesn't matter what's going on unless the fire alarm is going off, you're doing it. So you plan your
love
day
that.
around meditation. Why? Because you have to be recalibrated so that you stay on focus, so you stay on track, and so that you also interrupt patterns or habits that aren't serving you.
I think that's so great, and I know there's a lot of people that are like, well, I'm at my desk all day or whatever the case may be. Okay, well, get up and go for a quick walk around the office or do some jumping jacks in the bathroom or, whatever it takes to kind of get your body moving and just get in a slightly different state. That works too, right?
Look at smokers. They go outside 4 or 5 times
Right.
every morning, if you will.
Right.
No offense to the smokers, but look at what they're doing. They get out
Yeah.
of their they get out of their rhythm. Some people say, well, it's cold out because I live in Canada, so it gets cold in winter. But so what do? They go out and freeze. But no, they're taking deep meditative breaths to get everything going. Right?
Yeah.
They're totally they're talking about things, they're doing whatever, but it's totally a pattern interrupt. And if you're not interrupting your pattern, if your pattern is not in the perfect frequency, it will always go off course a little bit. An airplane has never flown straight from Houston to New York. It's never done it once. It has to recalibrate all the time. It's readjusting. And that's what you have to do, is you have to do it. Your brain's smarter than the computer that flies to the moon.
Right. Yeah.
Treat it like it and just recalibrate it and keep the power and the vibrancy going on.
Love that. Well, this has been a wealth of information for our listeners. I'm so grateful that you've been here. I do want to give them the opportunity. You've got a couple of books out and available, so I want to just share those with the audience. You've got The Good Boss, How Empowering Leaders Create Great Teams, correct?
Yeah, so that book I started, it was, I wrote that one a few years ago because it's just really, everything changes, all the time, but it was really just to give people some baseline as to how to really, build good teams and and how to communicate the overall business plan and, just how to really become somebody that's inspirational and not just task orientated or repetitive.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of coaching around that. Also, the other books is I did one with Kevin Harrington and a few other authors, How to Put a Shark in Your Tank. And there's that one there. And we've done a few more. But those ones were a lot of fun. And they were around Create and Live Chapter 2 for that one there is what I talked about. But, I think the big takeaway that I'd like to give people is go to coachtroy.ca. There's a set of questions there from Bob Proctor, and it's 8 questions. It's right at the very top. It'll say resources or extras, and just click on that. And if you can't find it, just message me and I'll get that to you. But some 8 key questions that I think was what really transformed my life, and and it was questions that really made me question, okay, where am I going, and when is it that I'm actually going to start making some changes? I'd ask everybody on this call today, when's the last time you took a holiday for real? And I'm not saying because of COVID, you could have went on any holiday. It's just you had to change maybe the destination. But you still could have taken time for yourself. You still could have taken time for your family. I had an amazing holiday in my backyard.
Love it.
And honestly, it was a heck of a lot less stressful than getting on an airplane. So it's whatever you want to make it. You just might have to change the blueprint.
Yeah.
But there's no reason in the world. If you were going to die tomorrow, you would make a backyard vacation, go get a tent from Costco or something like that, or go borrow a tent, go build a camping trip in the backyard, get to know yourself, get to know your family. And, maybe take a look at the Thinking and the Results program that I do, because when you really identify what your goal is and you figure out the stuff that's really blocking you from getting there, all the secrets are in there. We all know what we want. We all know how to do it. It's just we don't do it because we have fear, or maybe it's because our story isn't aligned. That's where and then you can add in the other things. And you can add in the other strategies of how to be, a great leader and all that stuff. Let's figure out you first and make sure that you are the rock star that you were designed to be from right the day you were born. There's nobody ever been on this planet that was brought here to be a failure. So we got to change that story. You're an amazing human, ready to live an outstanding life. Some of you, you're going to change. You're going to start that new chapter when you're 20. Maybe some when you're 15. Maybe some when you're 55, or even, my oldest client is 76 years old. There's never an age that you can't start a new chapter. And honestly, the tools are there to do it. I'd be happy to help you do that. that's probably the one of my, that's really the flagship where I'd like to be, Pam. And I'm willing to help anybody jump on a call and make sure that the right program that I offer or resource is set up for them, and or I've got an immense network of people. I'll point you in whatever direction it is for you, because I'm not for everybody, and not all clients are for me. So but I'm more than happy to make sure that your frequency aligns with who you need to be with.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you so much again for sharing your wisdom with us today, and just your presence and your frequency. This has been so much fun. And I know that this is going to be really beneficial for our listeners. So I appreciate you being with me.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I just want to leave with one thought. However you decide tomorrow to wake up, that's how you're going to impact yourself. That's how you're going to impact your family. And that's how you're going to impact all the other people around you. You have the opportunity right now to slap the negative limiting beliefs off your shoulder and start making a playlist that you can live by, that's going to give you every single outcome and desire you could possibly dream of. Trust me on that.
That's perfect. Well, with that, lots of love and light going out to all of you. And thank you for being here with us tonight. I look forward to seeing you again next week. So good night, everyone.
Good night.